Today I'm going to be looking at setting up an online classroom to teach physics lessons. If you are a teacher or somebody with a technical background who's volunteered to teach, and especially to teach physics, thank you. We're doing a good job so far, I think, of keeping the classrooms open for our students. And I think if you've got to the stage, especially if this is a new thing for you, where you've established some connection with your students, that they're physically able to access your online classroom, then that's really a good start. And it doesn't need to be high tech. So in this episode, I'm going to be showing you a very simple approach to online lessons. I'm not even using a board, I'm just using pieces of paper. Yes, I have a whiteboard coming, it's going to be delivered soon. But as long as the students can see you and see what you're presenting in some form, then you have the basis of a lesson. And I think really we need to look at priorities. The fact that education can continue, and obviously that means that the people who are involved in emergency services can go out and do the job that they're doing, the tremendous effort to protect all of us in the community. I think our online classrooms play a role in that, and that enables people to get on with the things that need to be done. And our priority is to look after the students. So yes, we teach a subject, but we teach people. And this is where I think the online lesson is so valuable. So in the lesson, it's important to check in with the students and to see how they're doing. But that can be overwhelming. So if you have a class of 40 or 50 students and they're coming in to you somehow, they've managed to connect and they're on a phone or a tiny little screen, something like that, I think that's really fantastic. That's pat on the back for those students right there, that they're actually with you. And as a teacher, you have lesson content to deliver, and you may wish to ensure that the students see how serious it is, that they must focus on their learning. But I think we do need to take a step back, and we need to look at the students who are having difficulties, and it could be tech problems. So I want to keep an open channel for students to tell me about any tech problems that they're having, so that I could point them in the right direction or help them. And I've also got some system where during the lesson or even afterwards, they can send information just to me. So it's not a chat forum on video conferencing, but it's just a message, only I'm going to see it. I have the luxury of having another screen here. So as I'm teaching the lesson, I'm also just taking a look on the screen to see what's coming back at me from the students. Now, I think that's important because they can tell me things like my microphone's not working, that's happened, or my internet connection's not going. That's fine, we could just use comments on the app that we're using. But for something personal like I don't understand what you just said and I don't want to share that with the whole class, this can be a useful back channel. And also it enables those students who are naturally quiet to adjust to the online environment. They don't have this fear of, wow, I'm putting myself out there, I'm making a comment and the whole class can see it. They certainly can through the chat that everybody can see. So I think just establishing that gives some sort of a groundwork for the class. And also, as you're checking in with students, it's an opportunity to find out who's got other issues, who's struggling because of their circumstances. And you may or may not be able to help them, or you can pass that on. But I think that's a really important part of our role as teachers. Now, in terms of the lesson itself, obviously, we've all had to scramble and create working spaces. And some of us maybe are very used to online teaching. And all around the world, it's really amazing how people have just come forward with suggestions. Teachers in Asia who've been doing this for months are really sharing what worked for them, what are effective practices, what are the difficulties. Again, thank you so much for anyone who's stepping forward. And if you have suggestions, if you're able to make a YouTube channel, now is the time, folks. Get it out there, put it out, tweet, just let people see what you're doing. That doesn't mean all traffic is going to go to you, but at least make it something that somebody who's searching can find. So on this channel, I am not going to try and reproduce some really fantastic work that's already out there. So if we're looking at channels which cover the whole syllabus in detail, we have amazing lecturers who could present any topic on the board and have already done so in a tremendous act of generosity. That's great. Here I'm going to rather share some thoughts about online teaching, and we're going to get into some practical strategies, I think, as the weeks go by. But if at the end of your first week, you've established connection with the students, you've got classroom routine, you've got communication going both ways, and there's some learning taking place, that's fantastic. So well done to you. Now, if we're looking at taking it a step further, what are we actually trying to achieve in an online lesson? It's very different to the classroom. And one of the things that I'm finding, my teaching style is to put a question up, give it to the students, and often on paper, because I want to actually see what they're writing. I want to get that thinking visible. And it can be really difficult in an online classroom to do that without using apps. There's lots of apps. We can probably go into that in another episode. I don't want to prescribe at this stage any one app over another, but just talk about general principles. But you want to get that feedback, teacher feedback to students, but also students feeding back to the teacher. So you can see what they're doing. Are they getting it right? Do they have a misconception? And that, I think, is the core of all teaching, and in particular physics teaching. Where the challenge comes in, if you're teaching physics or chemistry or mathematics in particular, is so much of what we do is it requires representation. We've got to draw diagrams, we've got to do mathematics, we've got to use algebra. And so we can't just direct students to a screen or a PowerPoint unless we've already got that set up. We can share screens, they can see whatever you've got on your screen. That's useful, but sometimes they just want to see you solving problem number 3 from the textbook because that's what you set them for homework. And now they want to see how you go about that. So something really simple where you can just write question 3. All right, folks. So what do you think would be an appropriate strategy for solving question 3? I'll give you a few minutes and respond via the link so I can see everyone's approach. Let me see what you guys have got. I'll be watching on my screen. Yeah, something like that can be effective, certainly for a start, because it's not such a big change for the students and everybody gets involved. And they know that what they're writing is what you're seeing. Now, you might not have the luxury of 2 screens or 3 screens, but you can split your monitor. Students can split their monitor as well. We all are going to be spending time as we set up trying to get the technology to work in a way that's seamless. But it can take time. It can take weeks to get to the perfect setup. And I think it's worth working towards that, but we can't put the learning on hold waiting for perfection. We need to move forwards. So just basic things like, hey folks, can you read this? Just speak out if you're struggling to see what I'm presenting. Okay, so maybe my connection is just really bad and all my students are seeing a pixelated view of this. Then that's not helping anybody. Then I need to change strategies. The email idea works well because that just allows you to field things and it helps you as well. If you've got an app, email gives you a little chunk of information, a little discrete task that you can act upon and you can prioritize that, because you need to stay on top of the most urgent and important things first. So during an online lesson, the flipped classroom idea can work really well. So you're setting reading assignments before the lesson. And then in the lesson, that's where you can check for understanding with your students. So you're asking, okay, can you, in the comments or using the link, can you share which questions you really had difficulty with and you'd like to discuss? And while you're doing that, take a look at what I'm showing on the screen now. And so you're giving them, for the ones who are quick, they can complete the task that you've asked. And for the ones that are taking a bit of time because they're still struggling with the technology or they can't hear you well, they have the time for that, but they're not holding up the lesson. So that's why I like to write these questions here. And of course, you can have them ready and pre-prepared. So that comes down and then you've got your next question ready to go so that they can see exactly what it was that you asked. you don't then get people asking to repeat what you said. Bear in mind, this is just one way of doing it. I'm sure lots of people have more creative ways, more effective ways. I'm not trying to make this the best, certainly not in the beginning, because that's a very, very high standard. I think something that is robust and can't fail is better than something that sometimes works very well, but sometimes totally fails. So we can get teaching going again online. And as time evolves, we can improve upon this. I think it's also important to look at the workload, both for yourself, because what my colleagues are finding and what I'm finding is that there's a vastly increased workload. And I just want to mention, colleagues, I am absolutely blessed to be working with a team of the most amazing, professional, dedicated educators. And I couldn't wish for a better, a nicer, stronger team. It's really amazing to be collaborating with them, even in the normal classroom situation, but especially online. Everyone is stepping up. Everyone is really focused on looking after each other and on student well-being. But if you're working in a small organization or you volunteered, you're stepping up to help and you're feeling a bit isolated, reach out in the online community. Also, leave a comment. I am going to try to get back to people who leave comments. And also, I'm going to try to make my contribution by producing a video every week, whether it's about running an online classroom, or maybe it's about you've got an experiment or a demonstration that you want for your students, and you're struggling to actually present that and you can't find a video online. I would suggest if there is a good video online and you can just send a link to your students, that's probably the best way to approach that rather than reinventing the wheel, because it takes a lot of time to create a video for YouTube. But on the other hand, if you just cannot find that video and you've got your list of resources and it's not showing up and you need something, well, maybe I can help you. So, for example, I've been showing my students, this is an LED. Now, if this is all you've got with your webcam, that's not very visible to your students. Part of the point of this channel is making things visible. So, for example, my students and I took this photograph some years ago just to show them that you don't need the Hubble Space Telescope. Like, you can actually take pictures like this yourself if you have the right equipment. Students out there, if you're watching this, I hope it gives you some insight into an online lesson. But please don't expect one lesson to look like another for different teachers. Everybody's doing their best, I'm sure. And the way that we can all help is to have that direct communication. So students should be contacting teachers with questions, with suggestions. And in this way, we grow our community. And I'm excited because, like all things, this will pass and the world will continue and we will be able to get closer than 2 meters to each other again in the future. And we'll be back in the classroom. And I think the techniques that we're learning here and the strategies that we're investigating, I think that's really exciting. It's going to change our teaching for both students and teachers. I think it's going to make it more enjoyable. It's going to force us to explore some options and to move forward and to revolutionize education. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay sane, and enjoy the physics. Bye for now.